Of liberalism, free markets, minimal government, individual freedom. Sounds simple. So why, across the entire history of humanity, has not a single state ever been purely liberal? Not one. That's not a coincidence. Smith, Locke, Mill, the greatest minds of liberal thought, wrote about how society ought to look. But between theory and actual governance, there has always been the same unbridgeable gap. And today, we're going to see why. First, liberalism is an ideal, not a blueprint. No theory can anticipate everything a real state has to deal with every single day. Theory says, free market. Reality says, but what about monopolies, unemployment, war? Second, every state has a history before liberalism. Feudal structures, religious institutions, military apparatuses, all of it exists before any liberal reformer ever takes power. And all of it resists change. Third, democracy always pushes toward more government, not less. Even when liberals win elections, voters demand protection. From unemployment, from illness, from old age. The political logic of democracy is merciless. Whoever doesn't promise protection loses power. Fourth, the free market itself generates inequalities that then demand state intervention, even by the logic of liberalism itself. Let's look at the closest examples. Britain from 1846 to 1914, the freest trading economy in the world, but simultaneously a colonial empire that exploited India and Africa. Liberalism at home, empire abroad. The United States in the 19th century, the myth of the free market. The reality? High protective tariffs, the state handing land to corporations, and slavery in the South. A radical negation of everything liberalism stands for. And the most tragic example, Chile under Pinochet. Milton Friedman's students carried out the most radical free market reforms in history, but under a military dictatorship that killed and tortured political opponents. Economic liberalism without political liberalism. Perhaps the most dramatic proof that the two don't have to go together. So, why has a purely liberal state never existed? Because liberalism is a compass, not a map. It points in a direction, but it doesn't describe the terrain you have to cross. Every real liberal state has been a mixed system, free markets plus social protection, individual freedom plus democratic correction, theory plus reality. And it is in that gap, between pure theory and actual politics, that everything we call the modern state is born. The question isn't whether liberalism is good or bad. The question is, how much liberalism and at what cost?